Jake Morrison rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the computer screen again. He had been watching space signals for 12 hours straight. Nothing exciting ever happened on Liberty Station, just the same boring radio waves from distant stars, and the occasional message from Earth ships. His partner Lisa Hayes was drinking her third cup of coffee. She worked the night shift with Jake, scanning the dark space around Earth for any unusual activity. Most nights were quiet. Too quiet. "Jake, look at this," Lisa said suddenly. Her voice was different, worried. Jake rolled his chair over to her station. On her screen was a signal unlike anything they had seen before. It was weak and broken, but it was clearly not human. "Where is it coming from?" Jake asked. Lisa checked her instruments. "About 40 light years away." "But Jake, this signal is moving toward us. Fast." They worked for an hour trying to clean up the signal. Slowly, words began to form. Not English words, but the computer was trying to translate them. "Help us," the translation read. "Running from ... hegemony. Seeking. Safe place ... Zarani people ... 50,000 souls." Jake felt his heart beat faster. This was first contact. Real aliens were talking to them. More words appeared on the screen as the computer worked on the translation. "Warning. They follow us ... Destroyers of worlds ... Earth people in danger." Lisa grabbed the emergency phone. "Commander Stevens. You need to get down here right now. We have something big." Commander Paul Stevens arrived in 5 minutes. He was a tall man with gray hair who had been in space for 30 years. Nothing usually surprised him, but when he saw the alien message, his face went white. "Keep working on that translation," he ordered. "I need to call Earth Command immediately." The message became clearer as the computer learned more about the alien language. The beings called themselves Zareni. They were running from something called the hegemony. They had been traveling through space for months, looking for a safe place to hide. The worst part was what they said about the hegemony. These aliens were not just conquerors. They were destroyers who turned entire planets into slave worlds. They had been hunting the Zarani across the galaxy, and now they were all heading toward Earth. "How long until they get here?" Stevens asked. Lisa checked the signal data. "The Zarani will arrive in about 6 hours, but the hegemony fleet ... they are only 3 days behind." Stevens picked up the secure phone to Earth. "This is Liberty Station. I need to speak to Admiral Miller immediately. We have a code black situation." Within an hour, every military base on Earth was buzzing with activity. Admiral Kate Miller sat in her office at Earth Command, reading the translated message for the 3rd time. 50,000 alien refugees were coming to Earth, followed by a war fleet that had destroyed dozens of worlds. "What do we know about their technology?" she asked her science advisor, Dr. Helen Davis. "The Zarani seem peaceful. Their ships are designed for long travel, not fighting. But this hegemony..." Dr. Davis paused. "From what the message describes, they have weapons we cannot imagine." Admiral Miller looked at the star map on her wall. Earth had a small fleet of ships and some orbital defenses, but they were built to fight other humans, not alien invaders, with unknown technology. "Get me Captain Cooper," she ordered. Captain Ryan Cooper was Earth's best ship commander. He had fought pirates in the asteroid belt and led rescue missions to the outer planets. His ship, the Defiance, was the fastest and strongest in the Earth fleet. When Cooper arrived at Earth Command, Admiral Miller showed him the alien message. "I need you to take the Defiance and meet these Zarani at the edge of our solar system," she said. "Find out everything you can about them and this hegemony threat." Cooper read the message carefully. "Ma'am, are we talking about war? I hope not, Captain. But we need to be ready for anything." As Cooper prepared his ship for launch, the alien signal kept coming in. The Zarani were sending more information about their enemy. The hegemony had over 200 ships in their fleet. Each ship was the size of a small city and carried enough weapons to destroy a planet. The Zorani message also included something that made everyone nervous. The hegemony had been tracking human radio signals for years. They knew exactly where Earth was and how many people lived there. They think we are weak, the Zorani message said. They expect easy victory, but they do not know humans. We have studied your signals. You are fighters. Perhaps you can do what we could not. Jake Morrison printed out the complete message and handed it to Commander Stevens. As he looked at the alien words, he realized that everything was about to change. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and their first neighbors were running from something terrible. Sir, Jake said quietly, what if we cannot stop them? Stevens looked out the window at Earth, blue and peaceful in the distance. Then we fight anyway, son. That is what humans do. The Defiance launched an hour later, heading toward the edge of the solar system, where first contact would happen. Behind it, every military ship on Earth began preparing for the worst battle in human history. In the deep space between stars, the Zorani refugee fleet continued its desperate flight toward Earth. 3 days behind them, the Hegemony War Fleet followed like hungry wolves, expecting to find another helpless world to conquer. They had no idea what humans were capable of when their home was threatened. Captain Ryan Cooper stood on the bridge of the Defiance as they reached the edge of the solar system. His crew was nervous. Everyone knew this was the most important mission in human history. Contact on sensors, called out Lieutenant Amy Torres from the communications station. Multiple ships, about 50 kilometers ahead. Cooper looked at the main screen. The alien ships were unlike anything humans had ever built. They were long and curved, with smooth silver hulls that seemed to flow like water. But they were also damaged. Scorch marks covered their sides, and some ships were leaking atmosphere. These are the refugees, Cooper said. They have been fighting for their lives. Commander Danny White checked his weapon systems. The human ship was ready for battle, but Cooper hoped they would not need to fight. Open a channel, Cooper ordered. Let us talk to them. The main screen flickered, and then showed something amazing. An alien face appeared, looking tired and sad. The being had pale blue skin and large dark eyes. When it spoke, the computer translated its words into English. Human ship, I am Fleet Commander Kethvar, of the Zorani people. We come seeking help. Cooper stepped forward. This is Captain Cooper of the Earth ship Defiance. We received your message. What do you need? Kethvar seemed surprised that the humans were willing to help. We need a place to hide our people. The Hegemony fleet will arrive soon. They will destroy everything in this system. Tell me about this Hegemony, Cooper said. The alien leader's expression grew dark. They are conquerors. They believe that strong species should rule weak ones. They have taken our worlds, enslaved our people, and turned our planets into mining colonies. Amy Torres was recording everything. This information would be sent back to Earth Command immediately. How many ships do they have? Danny White asked. Over 200 war vessels, Kethvar replied. Each one is designed only for destruction. They do not explore or trade like we do. They only take. Cooper felt a chill. The largest human fleet had only 50 ships, and none of them were as big as what Kethvar was describing. Why did they chase you here? Cooper asked. We were the last free Zorani world, Kethvar explained. We fought them for 3 years, but they had too many ships. When our defenses failed, we loaded our remaining people onto transport ships and ran. On the screen, other Zorani could be seen in the background. They looked exhausted and frightened. These were not soldiers, Cooper realized. They were families, children, ordinary people who had lost everything. How long until the Hegemony arrives? Cooper asked. Less than 3 days, Kethvar said. Captain, your people should run. Hide in the deep space beyond your system. The hegemony will not follow if there is nothing here to conquer. Cooper shook his head. This is our home. We do not run. Kethvar looked confused. But they have weapons. You cannot imagine. Energy beams that can cut through any armor. Ships with shields that block all attacks. Your species is young. You do not have to die for us. Commander White, Cooper said, bring us alongside their lead ship. I want to meet with Kethvar in person. An hour later, Cooper and 2 of his officers were aboard the Zerani ship. The inside was beautiful, with curved walls and soft lights. But everywhere they looked, they saw signs of damage from the long, running battle. Kethvar led them to a large room where dozens of Zerani were working at strange computers. The screens showed star maps and technical data that the humans could barely understand. This is our knowledge of the hegemony, Kethvar said. Their ship designs, their weapons, their battle tactics. We give this to you freely, though I fear it will not be enough. Cooper studied the data. The hegemony's ships were massive, some over 2 kilometers long. They carried energy weapons that could destroy a human ship in one shot. Worst of all, they had shields that could absorb tremendous damage. Your people are scientists and traders, Cooper observed, not warriors. Yes, Kethvar said sadly. We believed that knowledge and peace were the highest values. The hegemony taught us that sometimes violence is the only language some beings understand. Show me their tactics, Cooper said. For the next several hours, Kethvar explained how the hegemony fought. They preferred to attack in large groups, using their superior firepower to overwhelm enemies quickly. They did not like long battles or complex strategies. They expected their enemies to surrender after seeing their power. They always demand surrender first, Kethvar explained. They believe fear is their greatest weapon. Most species give up without fighting when they see the size of the hegemony fleet. Cooper smiled grimly. They do not know humans very well. When Cooper returned to the Defiance, he immediately sent all the Zerani data back to Earth. Admiral Miller and her staff would need every piece of information to prepare for the coming battle. Set course for Earth, Cooper ordered. The Zerani fleet will follow us. We will give them shelter behind the moon while we prepare for war. As the human and alien ships traveled toward Earth together, Amy Torres worked with the Zerani communication officers to learn more about their technology. The aliens had advanced sensors and defensive systems that could help human ships survive the coming battle. Danny White studied the hegemony ship designs and began developing attack plans. The enemy ships were powerful, but they were also predictable. They relied on brute force instead of clever tactics. Captain, White said, I think I see a weakness. These hegemony ships are built for fighting in open space. They are not designed for the kind of close-range combat we might face near Earth. Cooper nodded. We will use every advantage we have. Our ships are smaller and faster. We know this solar system better than they do, and we have something they do not expect. What is that, sir? Amy asked. The will to fight for our home, Cooper replied, as they approached Earth. Cooper could see the planet's orbital defenses activating. Every human military ship was moving into position. Admiral Miller was preparing for the largest battle in human history on the Zerani ships. Families huddled together and hoped that their desperate flight had finally brought them to safety. They had seen the hegemony destroy world after world. They prayed that Earth would not suffer the same fate, but Kethvar, watching the human ships prepare for battle, began to feel something he had not felt in years. Hope. These humans were not running away or surrendering. They were getting ready to fight. Perhaps, he thought, we have finally found allies who will not bow to tyranny. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the fate of 2 species and possibly change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Admiral Kate Miller stood in the war room at Earth Command, looking at the largest display screen she had ever seen. Red dots showed the position of the approaching hegemony fleet. Blue dots represented every human ship in the solar system. The numbers were not encouraging. 230 enemy ships confirmed, reported Captain Linda Parker from her station. Our fleet has 47 combat vessels and about 60 support ships. What about the orbital defenses? Miller asked. General Mike Johnson stepped forward. He was in charge of Earth's defensive systems. All orbital weapons platforms are online. We have 300 Surface-to space missile batteries ready. The new gravitational mines are deployed around the outer planets. Miller nodded. The gravitational mines were an experimental weapon that had never been tested in real combat. They created small distortions in space that could damage ships, but no one knew if they would work against alien technology. What is the status of our ship upgrades? Miller asked. Commander Beth Wright, Earth's best engineer, looked tired. She had been working for 36 hours straight. We have installed Zerani sensor systems on 12 of our ships. Their targeting computers are much better than ours. We also managed to add some of their defensive shields to 6 ships. It was not much, but it was something. The Zerani had been generous with their technology, sharing everything they knew about fighting the hegemony. Dr. Helen Davis, who had been studying the alien data, raised her hand. Admiral, I think I understand something important about the hegemony psychology. Tell me, Miller said. They do not fight to destroy, they fight to conquer. The hegemony wants to capture planets and use the population as slaves. This means they will try to avoid destroying Earth completely. General Johnson frowned. How does that help us? It means they will not use their most powerful weapons right away, Dr. Davis explained. They will try to win quickly with minimal damage to the planet. That gives us a chance to surprise them. Colonel Steve Adams, leader of the Marine Space Corps, had been quiet during the briefing. Now he spoke up. What about ground combat? If they try to land troops on Earth? We have prepared for that too, Miller said. Every major city has defense plans, but our best hope is to stop them in space. Captain Cooper had returned from escorting the Zerani fleet to the moon. He entered the war room with new intelligence. I have spent more time with Kethvar Cooper, reported. The hegemony always follows the same pattern. They arrive, demand surrender, then attack when refused. They expect their enemies to panic when they see the size of their fleet. But we will not panic, Miller said firmly. No, we will not, Cooper agreed. Kethvar says that in all their battles, the hegemony has never faced an enemy that fought back effectively. Most species surrender or are destroyed quickly. Commander Wright had been thinking about the enemy ship designs. Admiral, their ships are built for intimidation as much as combat. They are huge and powerful, but they are not very maneuverable. Our smaller ships might be able to outfly them. What about their shields? Asked Captain Parker. The Zerani gave us some ideas about that, Wright said. Their shields are very strong against energy weapons, but they are weaker against physical impacts. Our nuclear missiles might be more effective than we thought. Over the next 48 hours, Earth transformed into a fortress. Every ship in the system moved into defensive positions. The orbital weapons platforms charged their batteries. Missile bases on Earth, the Moon, and Mars prepared for the largest battle in human history. The Zerani helped however they could. Their engineers worked with human technicians to improve weapon targeting systems. Their scientists shared data about hegemony weak points and battle tactics. Kethvar met with Admiral Miller in person. The alien leader was amazed by the human preparations. In all our years of fighting the hegemony, we never organized a defense like this, he said. We always fought ship against ship, trying to protect our worlds one at a time. This is our only world, Miller replied. We have no choice but to defend it with everything we have. Your species is very different from ours, Kethvar observed. You seem to welcome this fight. Miller thought about that. We do not welcome war, but when someone threatens our home, we do what we must. As the hegemony fleet approached the solar system, Human preparations reached a fever pitch. Pilots practiced attack formations. Engineers checked weapons systems. Marines prepared for possible boarding actions. Commander Danny White worked with the Zerani to develop new battle tactics. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on, the human fleet would use the planets and asteroids as cover. They would force the hegemony ships to fight in close quarters where their size would be a disadvantage. The key is to make them angry, White explained to his officers. The Zerani say that hegemony commanders get impatient when battles last too long. If we can frustrate them, they might make mistakes. Captain Cooper was chosen to lead the first attack wave. His ship, the Defiance, would coordinate with 5 other vessels to hit the enemy fleet as soon as they arrived. Remember, Cooper told his crew, we are not trying to win this battle in the first attack. We are trying to show them that we will fight. Every shot we fire, every ship we damage, sends a message. Lieutenant Amy Torres had been working with Zerani communication specialists to monitor enemy transmissions. Captain, when they arrive, they will probably try to contact us first. They always demand surrender before attacking. Good, Cooper said. That will give Admiral Miller a chance to deliver our response. As the final hours passed, everyone in the solar system knew that everything was about to change. The Zerani refugees watched from their ships behind the moon, hoping that their desperate flight had not brought destruction to their rescuers. Human families on Earth looked up at the stars and wondered what the next day would bring. Children asked their parents if the aliens were really coming. Adults tried to stay calm while secretly preparing for the worst in the war room. Admiral Miller reviewed the battle plans one last time. She had deployed her ships in 3 defensive lines around Earth. The first line would hit the hegemony fleet as they entered the system. The second line would defend the inner planets. The third line would protect Earth itself. Admiral, Captain, Parker said quietly, what if this does not work? Miller looked at the display showing the approaching enemy fleet. 230 ships carrying weapons that could destroy worlds. Against them, humanity had courage, determination, and the will to defend their home. Then we make them pay for every kilometer they advance, Miller said, and we show the galaxy that humans do not bow to tyrants. The countdown began. Long-range sensors detected the hegemony fleet at the edge of the solar system. In a few hours, first contact would become first combat. Across the human fleet, crews checked their weapons one last time. This was it. The moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. They were ready. The hegemony fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system, like a dark cloud of death. Captain Cooper watched from the bridge of the Defiance as 230 alien warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. My God, whispered Lieutenant Amy Torres. They are enormous. The enemy ships were bigger than anything humans had ever imagined. The smallest were the size of skyscrapers. The largest looked like floating cities, bristling with weapons and armor. Cooper activated the fleet communication channel. All ships, this is Defiance. Remember the plan. We hit them hard and fast, then fall back to the second line. His ship was leading 12 other vessels in the first attack wave. They were hiding behind asteroids, waiting for the right moment to strike. On the hegemony flagship, Fleet Commander Zeldek studied the human solar system with satisfaction. He saw a small fleet of primitive ships and some orbital defenses around the third planet. This would be an easy conquest. Open a channel to the humans, Zeldek ordered. Let us see how quickly they surrender. The alien commander appeared on screens throughout the human fleet. He was tall and covered in gray scales, with red eyes that showed no mercy. Primitive humans, Zeldek said, in accented English. I am Fleet Commander Zeldek of the Hegemony. You will surrender immediately. Your planet will become part of our empire. Resist, and we will destroy every living thing in this system. Admiral Miller responded from Earth's command. Her voice was calm and steady. This is Admiral Kate Miller, of the Earth Defense Forces. You are not welcome in our system. Leave now, and we will not pursue you. Zeldik laughed. You dare to threaten us? We have conquered 100 worlds. Your tiny fleet cannot stop us. You are about to find out what humans do when their home is threatened, Miller replied. Zeldik cut the communication and turned to his weapons officer. Destroy their first line of ships. Make it quick. But as the hegemony fleet moved forward, Cooper's attack group struck from their hiding places. Among the asteroids, 12 human ships emerged from behind the rocks, firing nuclear missiles at the nearest enemy vessels. The missiles were enhanced with Zerani targeting systems. They flew through space like angry hornets, seeking the weak points that the refugees had identified in hegemony ship designs. 3 enemy ships exploded immediately. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons, could not handle the massive physical impact of nuclear warheads. Debris scattered across space as the alien vessels came apart. Direct hits, shouted Commander Danny White. Their shields are not stopping our missiles. But the hegemony fleet was huge. They returned fire with energy beams that lit up space. Like deadly lightning, 2 human ships were cut in half by the alien weapons. Another was disabled and drifting. Fall back to the second line, Cooper ordered. His remaining ships retreated deeper into the solar system, leading the enemy fleet toward the next trap. Commander Janet Lee was waiting with the carrier Yorktown and 30 other ships. They were hidden behind Jupiter's moons, using the giant planet's gravity to mask their presence. As the hegemony fleet pursued Cooper's ships, Lee's force attacked from the side. Human fighters swarmed out of the carrier bays like angry bees. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Roberts led the fighter attack. His pilots had trained for years in the atmosphere of Earth, learning to fly in 3 dimensions, with gravity and weather affecting their movements. Space combat was different, but the skills transferred. Target their weapon arrays, Roberts ordered. If we can blind them, the big ships can finish them off. The fighters were too small and fast for the hegemony's main weapons. The alien gunners tried to track them, but human pilots were more adaptable than anything the enemy had faced before. Roberts dove his fighter toward the hegemony flagship, dodging energy beams and missile fire. His ship was hit twice, but kept flying. At the last second, he fired his remaining missiles directly into the ship's command tower. The explosions damaged the flagship's communication systems. Suddenly, the hegemony fleet lost coordination. Ships that had been moving in perfect formation began to scatter as commanders could not talk to each other. Now, Lee ordered, all ships, open fire. The second defensive line unleashed everything they had. Nuclear missiles, energy weapons, and kinetic projectiles filled space with destruction. The enhanced targeting systems that the Zerani had provided made every shot count. Captain Alex Thompson on the battleship Constitution scored a direct hit on a hegemony heavy cruiser. The alien ship's reactor exploded, taking out 2 nearby vessels in the blast. But the enemy was learning. Zeldik managed to restore communications and began organizing his fleet. The hegemony ships formed defensive groups and started systematically destroying the human defenders. Second line is taking heavy casualties, reported Captain Parker from Earth Command. 15 ships destroyed, 8 more heavily damaged. Admiral Miller watched the battle from her command center. The human fleet was fighting better than anyone had hoped, but they were still outnumbered 4-1. Activate the gravitational mines, she ordered. Throughout the outer solar system, the experimental weapons came online. They created invisible distortions in space-time that grabbed at passing ships like hungry ghosts. 3 hegemony vessels flew directly into the minefield. The gravitational forces tore them apart, crushing their hulls and scattering the pieces across millions of kilometers. The alien fleet slowed its advance, suddenly cautious about hidden traps. This gave the remaining human ships time to regroup and fall back to the final defensive line. Around Earth.za, Elfek was angry now. This primitive species was supposed to surrender after seeing his fleet's power. Instead, they had destroyed over 30 of his ships and damaged many more. All vessels, advance to the third planet, he ordered. No more games. We will bombard their world until they beg for mercy. But as the hegemony fleet approached Earth, they found the strongest human defenses waiting for them. Orbital weapons platforms opened fire with energy beams and missile swarms. The moon-based railguns launched metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The final battle raged for hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed or crippled. The space around Earth became a graveyard of twisted metal and burning hulks. Captain Cooper, his ship badly damaged, but still fighting, led a desperate charge against the enemy flagship. The Defiance was joined by 8 other vessels in a direct assault on Zeldek's command ship. "This is for Earth," Cooper shouted as his ship fired its last missiles. The combined attack overwhelmed the flagship's defenses. Explosions tore through its hull, and the massive ship began to break apart. Z.A. Elvek, his command center collapsing around him, could not believe what was happening. His fleet was supposed to be invincible. These humans should have surrendered hours ago. As his flagship died, the hegemony commander sent a final message to his remaining ships. "Retreat to the outer system. We will call for reinforcements." The surviving alien vessels, less than half of the original fleet, limped away from Earth. They had expected an easy victory, and instead found their first real defeat. On Earth, people looked up at the sky and saw burning wreckage falling like meteors. The battle was over, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. Admiral Miller surveyed the damage to her fleet. 31 ships destroyed, 20 more too damaged to fight. But they had won. Earth was still free. "Admiral," Captain Parker said quietly, "what do we do now? They will come back with more ships." Miller looked at the tactical display, showing the retreating enemy fleet. "Now we take the fight to them. We show the galaxy that humanity will not be conquered." The first battle was over. The war for freedom had just begun. 3 days after the battle, Admiral Kate Miller stood in the war room looking at spy satellite images of the hegemony fleet. The alien ships had retreated to the edge of the solar system and were calling for help. Long-range sensors show at least 50 more enemy ships on their way, reported Captain Linda Parker. "They will arrive in 2 weeks. Dr. Helen Davis had been studying captured hegemony communication signals. "Admiral, they are not just calling for reinforcements. They are requesting permission to destroy Earth completely." Miller felt a chill. The first battle had been about conquest. The next one would be about revenge. "They underestimated us once," Miller said. "When they come back, they will try to glass the planet from orbit. Our defenses cannot stop that many ships." Commander Beth Wright had been working around the clock to repair the damaged human fleet. "We have 16 ships ready for combat, maybe 20 if we rush the repairs." The numbers were grim. Even with Serrani help, humanity could not win a defensive battle against the reinforced hegemony fleet. Captain Ryan. Cooper entered the war room with a proposal that would change everything. "Admiral, we cannot win by defending. We need to attack them before they can organize." Miller looked at the star charts. "Attack where? Their main base is 40 light years away. The Zorani have given us detailed maps of hegemony space," Cooper explained. "There is a major staging base only 15 light years from here. If we can destroy it, we can slow down their reinforcements and rescue thousands of enslaved beings." Commander Cathfar, who had become humanity's closest alien ally, supported the plan. "Kepler Station is their regional command center. They use it to coordinate attacks on new worlds. If you destroy it, the entire sector will know that someone is fighting back." Admiral Miller studied the intelligence reports. Kepler Station was heavily defended, but it was also full of non-combatants, prisoners, slaves, and administrative personnel who could provide valuable information about the hegemony's empire. How many ships can we spare for this mission? Miller asked. 10, Cooper said. My ship will lead the attack. We take the fastest vessels and hit them before they know we are coming. It was a desperate plan. 10 human ships against an entire enemy base. But Miller realized it was their only chance to change the course of the war. Do it, she ordered. But this is not just about destroying their base. We need to rescue as many prisoners as possible and gather intelligence about their empire. 2 days later, Cooper's strike force left the solar system. The ships had been upgraded with the best Zarani technology available. Their hulls were reinforced, their weapons enhanced, and their sensors improved. Commander Nick Garcia led a team of Marines who would board the enemy station. Colonel Steve Adams had trained them for zero-gravity combat and alien environments. Remember, Adams told his troops, we are not just fighting for Earth anymore. Every being enslaved by the hegemony is counting on us to show them that freedom is possible. The journey to Kepler Station took 5 days. As they approached the target, the human ships spread out to attack from multiple directions. The enemy base was huge, a massive structure built into an asteroid. Hundreds of ships docked at its ports, and thousands of beings lived and worked inside its corridors. Beginning the attack, Cooper announced, all ships, target their defensive systems first. The human ships struck like lightning. Enhanced nuclear missiles destroyed the station's shield generators. Energy weapons cut through communication arrays. Within minutes, the base was blind and defenseless. But the real mission began when Garcia's Marines boarded the station. They fought through corridors filled with surprised hegemony soldiers, using their superior training and equipment to overcome enemies who had never faced organized human resistance. Sector 7 secured, Garcia reported. We found the prisoner levels. There are thousands of beings here from dozens of different species. As the Marines fought deeper into the station, they discovered the true horror of the hegemony's empire. Entire species had been enslaved and forced to work in terrible conditions. Families had been separated, children taken from their parents, worlds stripped of their resources. But they also found something unexpected. The prisoners began helping the human soldiers. Beings who had given up hope suddenly saw a chance for freedom and fought alongside their rescuers. Captain, you need to see this, called Lieutenant Amy Torres from the station's command center. She had been downloading their computer files. While the Marines secured the area, the intelligence they captured was beyond anything they had hoped for. Complete maps of hegemony space, fleet dispositions, slave population records, and most importantly, communication codes that would let them contact resistance movements throughout the empire. This changes everything, Cooper said as he reviewed the data. The hegemony controls hundreds of worlds, but they rule through fear. If we can show other species that resistance is possible. Commander Danny White had been coordinating the evacuation of prisoners. Captain, we have a problem. There are over 50,000 beings on this station. We cannot take them all with us. Cooper made a decision that would echo throughout the galaxy. We take everyone. Commandeer every ship in the station. Turn this into a liberation fleet. The humans worked frantically to free every prisoner and capture every enemy vessel they could. The Zorani refugees, who had followed the strike force to help with repairs, found themselves reunited with lost family members and friends they thought were dead. As the liberation fleet prepared to leave, they sent a message to every enslaved world in the sector. The communication was broadcast on frequencies that the hegemony used for slave control, but now it carried a different message. This is Captain Cooper of the Earth Defense Forces. We have destroyed Kepler Station and freed 50,000 of your people. The hegemony is not invincible. Resistance is possible. Freedom is coming. The effect was immediate and dramatic. On world after world, enslaved populations began to rebel. Species that had been conquered decades ago suddenly remembered what It meant to fight for their freedom. The hegemony, which had ruled through intimidation for centuries, found themselves facing something they had never encountered before. Not just one rebellious species, but an entire sector in revolt. Commander Zelvek, recovering from his defeat at Earth, received reports of uprisings throughout his territory. Slave colonies were declaring independence. Trading worlds were expelling hegemony administrators. Military bases were under attack by their own former prisoners. How is this possible? He demanded. One primitive species cannot inspire this much rebellion. His intelligence officer provided the answer. Sir, the humans did not just attack our base. They rescued the prisoners and gave them hope. Now every enslaved being in the sector believes they can be free. Back in the solar system, Admiral Miller received Cooper's report with amazement. The mission had been even more successful than they had dared to hope. Admiral, Dr. Davis said, reading the intercepted hegemony communications, their entire empire is starting to shake. Rebellions are breaking out everywhere. Some of their own commanders are switching sides. Miller looked at the tactical display, which now showed a very different picture. Instead of an overwhelming enemy empire, she saw a collection of frightened bullies who had never faced real opposition. Prepare a message to all human forces, Miller ordered. We are no longer just defending Earth. We are leading a galactic liberation movement. Captain Cooper's strike force returned to Earth with hundreds of ships filled with former slaves and valuable intelligence. The Zerani refugees were no longer alone. They were part of a growing alliance of free species. As the Liberation Fleet entered Earth orbit, Kethvar sent a message to his people and their new human allies. 3 months ago, we sent a distress signal hoping for sanctuary. Instead, we found something better. We found warriors who do not know how to surrender, who will not bow to tyrants, and who believe that freedom is worth any sacrifice. He paused, looking at the blue planet that had become a symbol of hope throughout the galaxy. The hegemony came here expecting to find another helpless victim. Instead, they woke up something that should have been left sleeping. They thought they were bringing hell to Earth. But humans do not fear hell. They bring hell to their enemies. Admiral Miller addressed the combined fleet of humans, Zerani, and dozens of other liberated species. We did not choose this war, but we will finish it. Every enslaved world, every conquered people, every being who dreams of freedom can count on us. The age of the hegemony is ending. The age of liberation has begun. Across the galaxy, on worlds that had known only slavery and oppression, beings looked up at the stars and dared to hope. Somewhere out there, a species called humans had heard their cry for help and answered with fire and fury. The S.O.S had reached Earth, and humanity had unleashed hell on tyranny itself.